What if the most powerful transformation of your home didn't start with a hammer or a new shelf, but with a single drawer, gently opened, gently emptied? Misako was 68 when she moved from Kyoto to California, her suitcase light, but her presence quietly life-changing. She didn't lecture, she didn't redecorate. She just began to move, slowly, silently, through a space that wasn't hers, until it became something more. No checklists, no pressure, just a shelf left empty by a window and a daughter who didn't understand why, until she felt it. What if decluttering wasn't about getting rid of things? What if it was about returning to yourself? And what if, just maybe, the reason your home feels heavy isn't because you have too much, but because you've forgotten what still gives you life? If you've ever looked around and felt like your home no longer reflects you, this story might gently change that. But first, pause, take a breath, and come with me into a world where space isn't lost. It's found, one peaceful habit at a time. Misako didn't bring much when she arrived in California. Just a suitcase, a bamboo tea whisk, 3 photo albums wrapped in cloth, and a scroll of hand-painted kanji her husband once gave her. A quiet relic of a life built slowly. But what she truly brought couldn't be weighed or packed. She brought presence. She brought pause. She brought a way of living that her daughter had never seen, but would never forget. Misako had spent her entire life in a 2-room home in Kyoto. No walk-in closets, no basement storage. Yet, every corner breathed with intention. Every item had a story. Every gesture, like folding a cloth or placing a cup, felt sacred. Not because it was fancy, but because it was seen. When she moved in with her daughter, she didn't critique the space. She didn't rearrange furniture or open every drawer. She simply observed. She noticed how drawers were full, but no one knew what was inside. She noticed how closets brimmed with clothes, but mornings still felt frantic. She noticed how silence was rare, because the house itself was always buzzing. And so, she began, quietly. One morning, Misako stood in the center of her new room. She closed her eyes, placed her palm on her chest, and whispered, "This space is kind, but it doesn't know how to breathe yet." For the next few weeks, she moved like water, soft but constant. She didn't ask for help. She didn't need permission. One drawer, one shelf, one breath at a time, and something extraordinary began to unfold. Her daughter, once skeptical, started sitting longer at the kitchen table. The house, once noisy with things, began to feel softer. Arguments felt less sharp. Even time itself seemed to slow. Misako never lectured about decluttering. She never mentioned minimalism. She simply lived, fully present, fully rooted. And that presence was the legacy she came to pass on. Because simplicity is not a design trend. It's not about clean counters or white walls. It's a language, a rhythm, a way of saying, I honor where I am and what I choose to carry with me. So before we dive into habits and how-tos, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what kind of energy have you brought into your home over the years? What have you passed down, not in furniture, but in feeling? Because what Misako reminds us is this: you don't need to teach a lesson out loud for your presence to become someone's inheritance. In the next chapter, we'll explore the weight we carry without realizing it. Because sometimes, clutter isn't just stuff. It's emotional history. And learning to release it begins with understanding what it truly is. Misako once said, Americans think clutter is too much stuff. But in Japan, we see clutter as anything that no longer gives you life. Let that settle in for a moment. Because if you've ever stood in front of a closet, held something in your hands, and whispered, I might need this someday, you know it's not just about the item, it's about the memory, the guilt, the what-ifs woven into every forgotten corner. There's a drawer in your home right now, maybe in the hallway, or next to the bed, that you avoid opening. Not because it's messy, but because it's heavy. Not in weight, but in what it carries. Old birthday cards you never reread, but can't throw away. a jacket that belonged to someone you lost, and holding it still makes your chest ache. These aren't just things. They are emotional decisions waiting to be made. And they linger, quietly draining your peace. For seniors especially, clutter becomes layered. There's the practical, I paid good money for this. The sentimental, my child gave this to me. And the fearful, what if I need it again? But here's the truth that Misako lived by. Holding on out of guilt isn't love. It's delay. It's postponing the release your heart is quietly craving. And when you delay long enough, your home begins to feel like a museum. A place that preserves the past, but forgets to make space for the present. Misako never rushed to get rid of things. She didn't declutter in the way the internet suggests. No black bags, no viral checklists. She simply sat with each item, held it, remembered. And when it no longer brought light to her life, she whispered, "Thank you," and let it go. That quiet ritual didn't erase the memory. It honored it and set it down. Imagine how many corners in your home are filled with things you no longer see, but still feel. That's the real weight of clutter, not visual, emotional. So instead of asking, "Do I need this?" try asking, "Is this still serving me?" Because you deserve a space that supports your future, not one that quietly anchors you to the past. In the next part, we'll discover the unexpected power of how we store things, not what we store. Because when clarity begins with how we see, even one small drawer can change how we feel. One morning, as light spilled softly through the window, Misako walked over to a narrow shelf by the wall. On it sat 5 small trinkets: a glass dolphin, a candle, 2 framed photos, and a plastic flower in a chipped vase. She didn't criticize. She didn't rearrange. She simply removed everything, wiped the surface, and left it bare. Later, her daughter asked, "Are you planning to put something else there?" Misako smiled and said gently, "No, that space is already full." Full of what? Peace. In Japanese culture, there is a word, ma. It doesn't mean emptiness. It means the space between things. The pause between notes in a melody, the silence between 2 sentences, the breath before you speak. It's not the absence of something, it's the presence of calm. In many American homes, silence feels uncomfortable. A blank wall must be filled. An empty table feels undone. A shelf without display is a shelf wasted. But Misako had learned something different. When you allow space to exist without pressure, everything around it becomes more meaningful. A single vase in an open corner becomes art. An empty counter becomes invitation. A quiet room becomes sanctuary. That one empty shelf in her daughter's home, it changed the entire energy of the room. It didn't hold a thing, but it held presence. Her daughter didn't understand it at first, but over time, she found herself pausing there, resting her coffee beside it, looking out the window just a little longer. That shelf became a moment, a breath. A gentle reminder that less isn't about lack, it's about letting what matters truly shine. And for older adults, especially those who've spent decades collecting, storing, and saving just in case, this shift can feel unfamiliar, even wrong. But space is not waste, it's a gift. It gives your eyes rest. It gives your spirit room to rise. And it gives your home a new rhythm, one that matches the life you want now, not the one you used to manage. So if you don't know where to begin, don't start with a big project. Start with one shelf. Clear it. Clean it. Leave it open. Not because you've run out of things to put there, but because you're finally choosing not to fill what no longer needs to be full. Next, we'll explore a different kind of clarity, the kind that doesn't come from letting go, but from how we hold on to what we keep. Because sometimes peace is just a drawer away, folded, upright, and waiting to be seen. The first time Misako let something go in her daughter's home, it wasn't a broken item. It wasn't junk. It was her late husband's coat, soft, faded, still smelling faintly of cedar and winter air. She folded it gently, ran her hand across the sleeve, and whispered, so softly it could have been breath, Thank you. Then she placed it in a box for donation, not with guilt, but with grace. Her daughter watched, confused. That was sentimental. Why give it away? Misako smiled. Because it was loved, and now it's time to let it rest. In Japan, this act has a name, kansha. It means gratitude, not just for people, but for objects, moments, experiences. A sweater that kept you warm, a teacup that held quiet mornings, a book you never finished, but taught you something anyway. Each one gave something. Each one had a role. And when that role is complete, they deserve more than a trash bag. They deserve a farewell. For many older adults, letting go feels like betrayal. We hold on to things because, my son gave me this. I spent good money on that. What if I need it someday? But here's a deeper truth. Holding on from guilt doesn't preserve the memory. It traps it. It ties the object to shame, to hesitation, instead of love. Misako didn't keep the coat because she missed her husband. She released it because she remembered him fully and didn't need the fabric to prove it. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing space for what is still unfolding. So the next time you hold something you haven't used in years, don't rush. Don't judge. Just pause. Feel it. Thank it. Then ask, is this still part of who I am becoming? Or just who I once was? And if its role is complete, set it down with tenderness. Because releasing with reverence is how we teach our hearts that change is safe. That moving forward doesn't mean leaving behind. It means carrying only what still carries you. Now that we've learned how to let go with grace, let's talk about how to keep what remains with clarity. In the next part, we'll explore a simple but powerful shift in how you organize, one that can clear both your drawers and your mind. The first time Misako opened her dresser drawer in California, she paused. It wasn't messy, it wasn't dirty, but something felt heavy. Sweaters stacked on sweaters, t-shirts layered flat, deep and forgotten. To find one item, she had to disturb 5. And that, to her, felt loud. So she began, not by tossing things out, but by shifting how they stood. She folded each shirt into a slim rectangle, and instead of stacking, she placed them upright, side by side like books on a shelf. It was subtle, simple, and quietly revolutionary, because for the first time in that drawer, she could see everything at once. No digging, no forgetting, no stress, just clarity. This habit in Japan is called tateki, standing things up. And it's not just about neatness, it's about visibility. And visibility brings peace. Why? Because when your brain sees disorder, it feels disorder. Piles confuse the eye. Burying items creates stress. And that quiet stress, it adds up, especially in a home that's already full of memory and change. But when things are stored vertically, you reduce effort. You reduce visual noise. You create mental breathing room. It's especially powerful for seniors. No more bending deep into drawers. No more forgetting what's at the bottom of a bin. No more overwhelm every time you open a cabinet. Just order, calm, upright, and waiting. Misako didn't stop at clothing. She reorganized kitchen tools. Spoons stood in small cups. Important papers, filed upright by category. Even towels, rolled and stored standing, not stacked. The result? A home that whispered, I am ready for you. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is forgotten. And that whisper became comfort. You don't need a storage makeover. You don't need new bins or baskets. You just need a shift in thinking. Pick one drawer, any drawer, socks, dish towels, pens, fold, stand, breathe. Then tomorrow, open that drawer again. Notice how your body reacts. Notice what you don't feel anymore, rushing, reaching, forgetting. Because when your things stand tall, your mind does too. But what happens when new things enter the space you've worked so gently to clear? In the next part, we'll explore a habit that protects your peace, one thoughtful object at a time. Misako loved beautiful things, a silk scarf in soft plum, a hand-carved teacup she found at a local artisan fair. a pair of socks knit with tiny cranes stitched into the fabric. She still brought new things home, but she followed one quiet rule. If something comes in, something must go out. No exception, no delay. Not out of strictness, but out of respect. Her daughter once asked, "Why do you always let go of something when you buy something new?" Misako replied, "Because peace has a weight limit. And I want my space to keep breathing." It sounds simple, but this habit, one in, one out, can change the way we live. Because in most homes, accumulation is slow and silent. We buy a new mug, but keep all the old ones. We pick up another shirt. It was on sale, but forget what's already stuffed in drawers. We keep receipts, boxes, free samples, old chargers, just in case. And over time, our homes begin to sag under the weight of tiny, unconscious yeses. But Misako? She turned every new item into a question. If I bring this in, what will I release? And often, that question alone stopped her, because it forced her to ask, do I really want this? Or do I just want to feel something new? That pause saved her money, saved her space, and, more than anything, saved her peace. One in, one out isn't about deprivation. It's about balance. You're not limiting joy. You're protecting it. Because too much joy, when unmanaged, turns into clutter. And clutter slowly turns into stress. For seniors, especially those downsizing or preparing for simpler living, this mindset can be life-changing. You don't need to fear adding something new. You just need to know what you're willing to let go of, to make room. So the next time you're holding something new, at the store or in your hands at home, ask gently, is there space for this? Not just on my shelf, but in the life I want now? And if the answer is no, that's not loss. That's wisdom. And now, let's explore something even more subtle. The way your home shifts with time, season, and emotion. Because when we learn to move with the seasons, instead of against them, our space starts to breathe with us. Misako never kept her home the same for too long. Not because she chased trends or felt the need to constantly refresh, but because she lived with the seasons. When spring arrived, she tucked away heavy blankets and placed a single branch of plum blossoms by the window. In summer, she rolled up the thick rug and let morning light dance freely on bare floors. Autumn brought back texture, earthy tones, a soft candle glow, and winter invited deep silence, warmth, and wood. Each shift was quiet, small, intentional, but they spoke volumes. In Japan, this rhythm is called shun, a way of aligning your home with the natural world. And for Misako, it wasn't about decorating. It was about honoring time, because the world outside changes constantly, and so do we. Yet many of us, especially as we age, begin to feel stuck. Rooms stay the same for years. Blankets remain year-round. Holiday decor lingers long after the season fades. And without realizing it, our homes stop reflecting life and start echoing stillness. But not the peaceful kind, the kind that forgets to move. Misako once told her daughter, "Even the trees know when to let go." That stayed with her, because she realized her home had been holding on to things that belonged to summers long gone, winters that had already passed. The beauty of seasonal change isn't about things, it's about awareness. You don't need to buy a thing. Just notice. What could be rotated, stored, softened, or aired out? What texture, scent, or color might make your space feel more like today? Even something as simple as switching a cinnamon candle for citrus or replacing a thick pillow with a lighter throw can whisper, "You are here." And this season matters. For seniors, especially those moving slower, this practice becomes a quiet kind of self-care. Your home becomes your landscape, and changing with the seasons reminds you that time isn't just passing, it's happening through you. You are still part of the rhythm. You are still moving, still blooming, still letting go. So today, ask yourself, what season am I in? Not just outside, but inside. And how can your space reflect that? Because when your home honors the time you're living in, You stop feeling left behind by life. You begin to move with it. And once your home begins to move with time, the next step becomes even more powerful. Choosing what you display, not for show, but for soul. In the next part, we'll explore the quiet magic of displaying only what you love. In traditional Japanese homes, there's a quiet space called the tokonoma. It isn't large, it isn't crowded. It holds just one or two carefully chosen items. A single flower, a scroll with brush-painted words, an heirloom passed gently from one hand to the next. This space is not about decoration, it's about reverence. When Misako settled into her room in California, she didn't fill the shelves. She didn't line the walls with frames. Instead, she searched for her tokonoma. She found it in a small corner by the window, sunlit in the morning, quiet in the afternoon. On a narrow wooden shelf, she placed a ceramic vase, handmade by her mother. Inside it, one dried sprig of lavender. Above it, a scroll painted by her husband. That was it. No clutter, no extras. And yet, everyone who entered paused there, drawn not by spectacle, but by something still sacred, alive. Misako believed that when everything is on display, nothing is truly seen. But when you choose with care, you invite the heart to pay attention. And attention is love. In many American homes, shelves and mantels are packed. Gifts, souvenirs, family photos, trophies, reminders. Over time, the eye stops noticing, and so does the soul. But what if, instead of displaying everything, you displayed only what still speaks to you? Just one object, one memory, one symbol of where you are now, not just where you've been. Try this. Clear one small area, a shelf, a table, a windowsill. Wipe it clean. Breathe. Then place one object there. Not the one with the highest price, but the one that brings the deepest peace. And let it be your tokonoma. A space of stillness, of self-remembrance, a quiet altar to what matters most now. Because in the end, your home is not just a place to store things, it's a place to return to yourself. And sometimes, all it takes is one object, in one space, to whisper, "You are here. You are enough. And this moment is sacred." Now, you might be wondering, what's next? Where do I begin? The answer isn't a checklist or a weekend project. It's something much simpler and much more powerful. A single step, and we'll take it together, right now. Each morning now, just after the light slips through the blinds, Misako sits in her favorite chair. No phone, no television, just a teacup between her palms, a small plant resting on the sill, and a folded blanket across her lap. Her home is still, but more importantly, she is still. Nothing pulls at her. Nothing overwhelms. The space around her doesn't whisper of unfinished tasks or forgotten corners. It simply says, "I'm here, and so are you." The beauty of it all? It didn't happen overnight. She didn't renovate. She didn't downsize into something new. She didn't spend a fortune. She just began. One drawer, one item, one breath at a time. And from that simple beginning, peace returned. Not just to her home, but to her way of being. Maybe that's what you've been longing for too. Not a house that looks perfect, but a home that feels like you again. One that breathes with your rhythm, reflects your present, and gently releases the weight of everything that no longer serves you. So if something in this story stirred your heart, maybe reminded you of your mother, your childhood home, or the quiet you've been missing, let that be your first small step. Tap the like button if even one moment made you feel lighter. Share in the comments what spoke to you most, and subscribe if you're ready, not just to clean, but to create a space that finally supports who you are now. Because home isn't where you store things, it's where you return to yourself. And that journey, it starts now.